So hopefully, oops, why am I there? Wow, sorry. That was a real error, beg pardon. Let's go back to the top. So I told you we take 5 minutes to do everything. Now we've done it. Okay, so beginning, what we're going to be doing today is basically running through the basics of what you need to create a fresh layer for yourself, add features to it, style it, all the rest of it. Basically some sort of housekeeping notes to start with. I will be following up with the recording and the slide presentation. The presentation has got notes on the bottom of each slide telling you how we got there and what we did. So the idea is that you can basically go through it in slow time afterwards if there's anything you want to review. And if you have any chats or questions as we're running through, because there are only 3 of us this morning, please feel free to jump in or just use the chat, and the Q&A session will run through the chat questions afterwards.
Perhaps I could just ask to start with, because I'm coming in very, very fresh to this as both a new parish councillor and somebody who hasn't heard much about this system before. When you talked about, was it fresh layers?
Could
you say the sentence before that?
We will, on the first slide, Stephen, I'll take a few seconds just to tell you what you're looking at, and then it'll make sense to you. Okay. If for future reference, if it helps, I do a demonstration on Mondays of what the system is and basically how you can use it, which sometimes helps to give an overview. And there is something like a 1 minute and 50-second video, which is an introduction to the system that is put out by Geosphere, which is also a wonderful introduction to the system, but we will cover it. So on today's agenda is basically an introduction of who I am and why we're here today, and then the steps that we'll take to get through the program. This is a fairly fast flowing thing, so because there's something like 60 or 70 slides to go through. But do please feel free to stop me if you need, because experience shows that we get through these quite easily. So just my background, I spent 35 years working in IT, and so I'm very familiar with all sorts of software programs. And I think this Parish Online is just really one of the best I've seen. It's extremely powerful. It's very useful. It's a great time saver for busy parish clerks. And I speak with all the years and years of authority as a parish councillor. So I've seen our parish clerk sweating away, and she loves this system, mostly because I do most of the work. So that's even better, really. It's a good arrangement. There was no user group for Parish Online. So when I got involved, I started one. And there's the website at the bottom, which basically takes you to a site that introduces you to the sort of support that you can get as a newcomer to the program. And also, I do a lot of work in trying to persuade local authorities to help all of the users within their counties who are using Parish Online. Parish Online is quite a widespread program. There's something like 1,800 councils across the country using it. And it makes a big difference if you can persuade your local district and county councils to start exporting their data to Parish Online, because it then becomes readily available. So I do a lot of work that way. And if you find that you're not getting what you should get from your local councils, by all means, give me a shout and I'll be delighted to help out. So what we're going to do today is show you, particularly for Stephen's benefit, what a public map is of a planning application. Then we'll show you how we got to it on the inside, and then we'll actually go through the nuts and bolts of putting it together. So the first thing to show you is what it looks like. So what I'm going to do is I'm just bringing up in my browser a page that Long Sutton publishes to all of its villagers and on the village website. to show what the status is of the planning applications. Now, Parish Online is a cloud-based system, so it takes a little while sometimes, particularly if you don't have the best of connections to the internet, to download the whole system. So this doesn't look very clever at the moment. We're just waiting patiently for it to fill in, which I hope it will do if I keep speaking swiftly enough.
Graham, can I ask a question while we're waiting?
Of course.
Just jumping back, sorry, to the previous slide where you talked about the local authority layers.
Yeah.
How will you cover today how we can liaise with our local authorities and how we can find out what else, how we find out what else they've got? Because the stuff that's on my system at the moment has appeared there from our local planning authority. There's only one layer. Does that mean that's all they share?
No, there are usually two authorities to deal with. There's the county council, if you're in a county, and the local district council. And they each have responsibility for different layers of data that they hold on the public's behalf. So you tend to get from the county council most of the highways information, public rights of way, which is.
But does it appear automatically, or does one have to request it?
Well, it depends where you are. So in your case, you're in Norfolk, aren't you?
Warwickshire.
Oh, sorry, I don't know why I was confusing you. I'm not familiar with Warwickshire, but if they do export stuff, it will appear automatically in your layers. So if you don't see it at the moment, they aren't doing it. And that's something that we need to press on to. I'm really sort of disappointed at this. I should mention that this is a lot of digital photography in here, and that takes a long time to download, but this is actually taking ridiculous amounts of time. Let's try again. But essentially, in case I just need to describe it rather than wait for it to appear, what you get here is a map of the village, actually an overhead photograph showing every detail. And then superimposed on that, we've put each of the current planning applications for this year. And Parish Online is what's known as a location-based data system. So you can click on any of these locations, so let's say this one, and it will bring up on the left-hand column the data that you're interested in. So in this case, you just get the planning application when we submit the parish council, and then most useful of the lot, perhaps, is this link down here, which takes you directly to that particular application on the parish, sorry, the local planning authority, which in our case is South Somerset District Council. And from here, you can go straight to their documents page and see all the associated documents, which are all the things you're used to seeing, I think, with a planning application. So the point being that the members of the public don't have to go searching for this. They can just go onto the public map, look for their particular house or the one that they're interested in, click on the map here, and they get taken to all the latest information. So that is the public map. You'll just have to imagine, I'm afraid, for the moment, that there is a photograph superimposed on top of that of our particular village. And now I'm going to go and show you how we get there. And that will involve showing you, Stephen, what on earth public Parish Online is all about.
Okay.
So let me go back to the presentation. And we're now going to look at the same thing from the inside. So when you go into Parish Online, Stephen, it opens up like this. And what you're seeing on the right-hand side of the screen is the Ordnance Survey's high definition digital map of the UK. And it always opens on your local parish. So for me, we've opened up in Long Sutton, but you can in fact see the entire country. So you've got the whole of the UK at your disposal. So if it's particularly interesting for you to go and see where your grandmother lived, back in the previous century, you can do that, or where on earth you went on your last holidays, if you can remember whenever they were. On the left-hand side, you've got what is basically a column of different layers, and you can add these layers in on top of the Ordnance Survey's map. So if, for instance, just to say for argument's sake, you need to know where all the listed buildings in your area are, you can click on that map and it populates on top of this map. You can see where everyone is. And then the same principle as before, you can click on any one of them and the left-hand column will change to the associated data entry for that particular listed building in this case. And there's hundreds of layers to choose from. Most of them come from third party like the Environment Agency and or anybody else, Historic England, all sorts of things. People generate data which is automatically imported and updated for you. And those third party layers are available for you just to superimpose on top of the map as you wish. You also have the facility to create your own layers, what are known as parish layers, where you can actually go in and put whatever you like in there. And that's what we're going to do this morning. So what I'm showing you now is the opening map, no layers turned on, but I have expanded the parish layers so you can see which ones I've created in the past. So we've moved planning applications up to the top. When you create lots and lots of layers, they're created in chronological order. So the last one that you created is way down the bottom of the list. And what we'll show you later today is how you can move it up to the top. So we're moving on now to the next step. And I've turned on, as you can see here on the left-hand side, I've turned on the planning applications for 2021, just so that you can see exactly what we were showing you in the public map. And the
again, sorry, Graham, and again, that has come automatically from your local planning authority. You haven't uploaded those.
It would be delightful to be able to tell you that you were correct. But in point of fact, our local planning authority has indeed invested in a system called XMAP, which is the big brother to Parish Online. And they will be exporting all of these planning applications. Depending on whom you talk to, it's going to be in 30 seconds time, tomorrow, sometime next week, or probably after we've gone to becoming a unitary, which is in about 2 years' time. So it's like all these things. It varies hugely, but I'm not holding my breath, I'm afraid. So these ones I've put in myself. It looks like a huge task, but believe me, once you finish today's work, which is creating this system, adding in each new planning application takes somewhere around about 2 minutes. It's very quick. Everything in Parish Online is daunting to begin with, but it's very quick once you've got the hang of it. If I can make any recommendation to people, it's that they use it as often as possible so that they don't lose the sort of familiarity with the system. They have to keep relearning it. So what I've done is turned on the application layers. They're all here. The beauty of the public map system is that every time you make a change in here, it gets reflected automatically in the public's version. So you don't have to do anything. It happens without any input from you, which is very appealing. So next slide. What I've done here is zoomed in a little bit to show you the same scene that you would have seen on the previous one had it worked properly. But what I'm doing here is to show that we've color-coded the applications. So anything that's still awaiting a decision by the local planning authority, in our case, we've chosen to make it purple. The ones that have already been approved, we've made green. The ones that have been rejected are red, and so forth. So we'll be showing you how we achieved that. So same distance, if I clicked on the red one here, it would have pulled up this information, which is exactly the same as the public can see on their public map. And we'll move on again as well. So this would have taken you, had I clicked on the link, to the same record in the portal. So basically the system is an exact replica inside the system of Parish Online as you're getting in the public map. So in theory, I've now shown you how the public map works, how people can use it to scroll in, out, move around, which I didn't do because the system was so slow. And we've done the same thing inside Parish Online. So what we're going to do now is actually show you how we get there. So we're going to create a new layer, which is one of the parish layers that you are permitted to do. There are two areas, Stephen, that you can make changes to in the system. One is in what's called the parish layers, and the other is in what's called the asset register, which basically is where each council keeps track of its assets, principally for insurance purposes, but actually a very handy way of keeping track of what you own anyway, and whether you're maintaining it properly. So having added the new layer, we're then going to add a feature to it, actually put in a data record. We're going to style it so that you can get labels and color codes, and then we'll do a publishing results so you can see how you get out of it. So these are the details that we want to add in the new layer, which is basically what you saw in the data record for each application. So I think you'll all be familiar with this stuff. It's all very standard. So let's do that. Now, to create a new layer, you go amazingly up to the Create menu. It'll drop down and you'll see a choice of add a feature or a new layer. In your case, we're going to select a new layer. And up pops this little screen which says, what do you want to call this? And what I'm suggesting to you in the notes underneath is that you keep it short because it's going to go in here. And so you don't want it to be any longer than the width of here. So I've just kept it down to Planning Applications 2022, which we can type in here. And I have done that for you. So we click on Next. And the next one comes up and says, what sort of geometry do you want to use? Now, there are three types of geometry within Parish Online. One is a point, one is a line, and one is a polygon. And a polygon covers an area. Most planning applications are for areas, you know, I want to build a conservatory, I want to refurbish the garden, whatever it happens to be. So you're going to choose a polygon. And you can only have one geometry type per layer. So you would use points for things like bus stops, grit bins, anything that's an individual item. You would use lines for footpaths or measuring distances or something, but polygons is probably the most frequently used. And if you have anything that where you're going to have to represent all three types, then you need to create three layers and turn them all on simultaneously. That's sort of in passing. In the layer description here, you now are able to wax lyrical and describe what the purpose of this particular layer is. The idea being that when you come back to it in 6 months' time or 2 years' time, when your successor comes in, they can find out what on earth you were thinking about. For those of us who are above a certain age, it's really helpful to remind us what on earth we wrote this thing for in the first place. So when you're happy with that, click on Next. And we start the new layer, which is going to have what Geosphere call columns. I'm used to calling fields of data, but basically these are the individual contributors to the data record that you're completing. So there's nothing there at the moment. To add one, you would click on this plus sign, and we'll do that. And it pops up. It automatically, by default, calls it name. It says you want a text type field, and you're allowed to add values, which we'll get into in a second. Now, you probably want to change that name just by putting your cursor up there and changing the word to whatever you want. You don't have to have a field called name, but you do have to have a different name for each field or each column. So I'm going to click on plus to add another one. So there we go. And I've added two more for you. I've changed the first name to read application number. I've added a new one called name, and I've put a third one in called date. And I've stopped briefly there just to explain there is the choice here of either text or date or number. And most people will choose date field for a date. I leave it as text because I've lived quite a lot of my life in the States, and they do everything backwards over there. So to avoid confusion, I like to write out my dates in the form, 21 Jan 22, rather than 01 22, whatever they put. Then you've got no idea what date that's meant to be. But that's purely a personal thing. I just leave it here to you to consider. We're going to add some more fields, so I'll click on plus. And that brings us down to the decision by the parish council. And here you want people to select from a preordained list. So rather than they put in what they think the parish council has decided, you want to keep it down to a fixed list of answers, which you're going to do by clicking on the add plus sign here. So we're going to do that. And here it says, what do you want to add in? So we just type in, the first one we're going to want is approved, I think, or awaiting a decision. So I'll type in that. No, I guessed wrong. It's going to be supported, no objections. Then we said, okay, we need more than that. So we're going to click on add. And I've put in these for you, but these are basically the choices that we come up with within our parish council. And you guys will all have something similar to that. So when you're happy with the list, you can just confirm that we're ready to go. Just a point in going through Parish Online, it's extremely easy to edit everything later. So you don't have to get it right first time. It's in many cases, and we will get onto that shortly, it's going to be better to do a rough and ready to start with, and then go in and clean it up afterwards. And certainly there's no problem in saying, I should have thought in this, or I should have called it that. You can change things later, no problem.
Graham, those descriptors, both on this one and on the previous one, the column names,
Yep.
Are they pre-populated or?
No, the column names all default to the word name to start with.
Okay, and then will you put whatever you want?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So let's moving on. I'm hoping that Julie, you're catching all this in Street Willerton. Where are you? Willerton Street. Yes. Anyway, clicking on confirm to go to the next stage. And basically, we've now finished all the items. We've put 5 choices in the parish council decisions, and if you scroll down, you'll be able to see the others. The point I'm making here is if you want to change something, you can just go back. It's a piece of cake. When you're finished, you click finish. So now it says, okay, this is what we've done so far. You've created a layer that's a polygon. We've called the layer Planning Applications 22. We've put in a much bigger of what it is. And these are the individual columns. If you're all happy with this, then you go ahead and save it, which I'm clicking on now. And it comes up and says, I have added it to your parish layers. Now, in the case of anybody who's not added layers before, yours will be the first one. In my case, it's added it to the bottom and we can't even see it. So you'll need to scroll down to find it. And lo and behold, there it is, the one we just added at the bottom. The point of this slide is to show you that it's actually, if you've got lots and lots of layers like we do, then it's very inconvenient to have the one that you're working on at the moment down at the bottom of the list. You'd much rather have it come up top. So you get the choice of clicking on this little equal sign here, up comes the drag to reorder message, and you can just push it up to where you want it. I'm going to push it all the way to the top, and we have it up there. And you'll see the impact of this later on, but it's a good move. Just being able to sort this list into the order that you want is a great feature. I like it. It's very handy. It's very quick so that you can just move things around depending on what you're doing today. Over here on the right-hand side, we're in the General tab. What we're going to want to do is to move to the Columns tab to actually finish off the creation of this layer. So I'm going to click on Columns now. And up comes the columns that we've created. And these, I'm just going to move your pictures out of the way. There we go. The search and the query columns are already pre-populated for you. And I would suggest you just leave them like that. Basically, they sort of control the way that people can access the system, and basically experience shows you're going to want everyone to be searchable and queryable. What is blank is the required fields. And then the public and the links we'll get into in a second. Today, we're concentrating on the required fields. None of them is required at the moment. Let me make a suggestion that you need at least one field to be required. And the reason for this is to find data later. So When you come to add a new feature, which we're going to do shortly, you'll see that the left-hand side of the screen gives you rows of data to fill in, and the right-hand side just shows you where you want to mark it on the map. If you mark it on the map and then save the record, there's no way of finding later what it is because you haven't put in anything in one of the fields. So I suggest you make one of the fields, either the name or the number or something, required, and then people cannot save their data until they've filled in the required fields. And you'll see this in a second. It makes more sense when I show it to you, but I'm just explaining to you now why we do this. So I'm going to mark up the required fields that I want. And in fact, I'm going to do several required fields. So I've marked these 5 as all fields that I want to be completed before you can save the record when you're doing it. Okay, the next step is those fields that we send out to the public map. You indicate the ones you want there. And by and large, it's going to be everything that's public information, but you would not publish anything which is private. So if you happen to be storing telephone numbers, people's names, or you've written in your notes that this is a grumpy old curmudgeon and you don't want to deal with him as much as possible, that's a good idea not to make that public information. So you get the choice within Parish Online of what fields you are going to publish. And that's what this column is for. We're going to do that now. And now you'll see that I've lifted up everything except notes, because some of the things I write are indescribable and you don't want that to be public. So the last thing we're going to do is put in the link. You remember we had a link that went out to the South Somerset District Council portal for planning applications. We want to make that in place, so we're going to click that. And then the last thing, when you have selected a link, there's a little tiny 3-button thing here, 3 dots that you need to click on. And when you do, it brings up this page. In 99.9% of the time, just accept the default and confirm it. These 2 other things are going to take quite a lot of time to talk about. They can be useful, but in 3 years of using Parish Online, I've used them twice. So we don't bother with it today. Just accept the default by clicking on confirm. And now we're all done. So up at the top, there's a bright yellow save button, and we're now all set to go. So we click on that. And it comes up and says, "You sure?" And you say, "Yes, please, I am a decisive person." So you click on that save. And although you can't see it on this slide, a little green pop-up screen comes up to say the record has been successfully saved. Occasionally, you get a little red one that says it wasn't saved. And that's usually because there's been a sort of temporary blip in your connectivity to the internet. And basically you solve the problem by just doing it again. That little message only stays on the screens for about 5 seconds. So don't blink or go away and make coffee whilst you're saving. You want to be sure you've got the record saved, and then you move on. So we're now ready to go back to the maps to see the effect of what we've done. You click on the map icon up the top here, and away we go. So just a summary of where we are. We've created a new layer. We've created columns in the layer. We've configured the columns as we want them. And we're going to come back now to the maps. So what's next is, having created the new layer of information, we need to put a record in it so that we have something to show. Then we're going to style that record for labeling and color, and then we'll publish it. So moving on. If we go back to the main map, columns of layers on the left, main map on the right. If you go into and you'll see that we've now got planning applications has popped up as the top layer, because that's where we moved it to. To add a record, you can right click anywhere on this layer and up pops this little feature here, and you want to click on add a feature, which is what we're going to do. So the left-hand column changes to all of these columns you'll recognize. The ones we've just created, and the ones in red are the ones that I said are required information. So you'll notice that the save button down the bottom is grayed out, and it won't turn black and let you use it until you've filled out the information that the system requires. And bear in mind that it also requires you to make a mark on the map as to where you're putting in this planning application. So you may get the impression you filled in every one of these correctly and it's still grayed out. It's because you need to put the cursor on the map. When you're, excuse me, when you're in this mode, you'll notice that, although I can't show it to you here, when you move the cursor of the mouse over the map itself, it changes to a crosshairs, indicating that it wants you to do something. And so we'll show you that in the next slide. What we're going to do here is complete all of these data. And everything is done. You'll notice that in the parish council decision, it gave you a drop-down list, and you can check which one of these is the correct one that applies to the parish decision. And same for everything else. So we'll go down to the next one. We've now filled in the link to the LPA portal. Now, you probably get an announcement from your local planning authority. Does it come by email and it says, so click here to get more information? Because that's the way that South Somerset works. And then it takes you to that portal, and then you can just cut and paste the link on the portal into this field here. So that's basically how it gets there. Now the save, you'll notice. Graham, yep, Stephen.
Sorry, can I just ask at this stage, in Chichester, the district council has a mapping system.
Yep.
They call it My Chichester District. How is this related, or is it related? Is it connected to Parish Online, or
the answer is it can be. So sort of somewhat akin to what Judy was asking earlier. There is a big brother to Parish Online called XMAP, and Parish Online, the company, Geosphere, say they will give a free copy of XMAP to any council, either the county or the district level, who wishes to export their data to Parish Online. And XMAP is the solution, if you will, to the problem. And basically all the parish council, or sorry, the county or the district council IT department has to do is say, we'll give you access to this database for the next 10 minutes. And it's as quick as that. And then Geosphere come in, they grab the data that they need, it goes into XMAP, and then that information continues to be exported to Parish Online every time the district council makes a change to the system. So basically, Geosphere will go in, they will do the work. There's no burden on the IT department, or what's usually called the GIS department, which is the Geographical Information System. XMAP and Parish Online are both geographical information systems, and they use absolutely standard formats. So the system that your district council is using will be able to export directly into XMAP. But the beauty of Geosphere is that they do the work for your district council. So really it's just a matter of calling up and saying, may we have it, please? Now, one of the questions that was asked earlier by Jane was basically, how do we do that? And the secret of success is to, under no circumstances, talk to the GIS department or the IT department, all right? The people you need to talk to will have a name, something like customer experience manager, customer service director, something. What you want is the person who's responsible for making sure that the council serves the people it's supposed to serve. And certainly my experience has always been these people are delighted when you call them up and say, we need to have some data, please can we work with you to get it? And they will push the necessary buttons within the council. Does that help, Steve?
Yeah, I want to go just sort of back slightly. Chichester District run this mapping system, which has planning application information in it on the map.
Yes.
This is available to the general public anyway.
Yes.
So you can go in there and look at a planning application with a link that takes you to, the planning portal. So as far as I could see, it sounded as though it was providing the information that you're talking about.
Yes, that's true. What you're doing by putting it into Parish Online is you're making it interactive with your local council decisions. So what the local parish council says is never reflected on the district council website. So you're basically saying, here I can interact with the system here, and then you'll see, no, you won't see, I can show you later, what the impact is of bringing in information that other councillors may not have thought of. So you can bring in, for instance, is this planning application in the middle of a conservation area? Is it close to a site of special scientific interest? Does it involve a grade 2 listed house? Is it in an area that's subject to flooding? Is there a tree preservation order on the area where they're going to flatten all the trees to build their house? Whatever it happens to be, none of that information is shown on the local planning authority site, your district council. But you have the ability, when you're discussing this application at the council, the parish council level, you have the ability to throw all that information in and consider it in a much more knowledgeable way.
That information is on the district council mapping system.
In your case, it is?
Things like TPOs, boundaries, community facilities, council. I mean, there's a whole lot of different map categories, which I guess are layers, as you said, you might say.
Well, that's good. So the system that they're using is not available to all. It's not. So each district council makes its own decision as to which one it wants to use. So yours sounds like it's a particularly good one.
Yeah. Yes, I wonder whether I can I share a screen with you so you can sort of see?
Yeah, of course.
Would that help? Or, I mean, it's...
Would you mind if we did it at the end of the session?
Yeah, sure.
Conscious of the time.
At the moment, I'm struggling a little bit that you're describing a system that seems to do what I already have, except that you're saying we have to put the planning applications in, and of course on the district council mapping system, it's all there anyway. It's already entered.
That's true in your case. It's not true in all cases. Plus,
yes.
I've chosen this example as how do you create a public map? How do you create parish layers? And how do you add features to parish layers? The fact that I chose planning applications to do it as the example may not be of any use to you whatsoever, but by and large, it's been very useful to a lot of the people that we've given this course to so far. But don't lose sight of the fact that what I'm showing you today are the principles of using the system, and you can apply it to any layer that you wish to create. I've just chosen a planning application as the layer to use as an example, but the principles apply throughout the system. So if a planning application is of no interest to Chilham, then no problem. You can use it.
Well, it's definitely of interest. It's just a question of which is the right source of information.
Right. Well, I think the way I would summarize it is to say that if it's incorporated into Parish Online as well, it's doubly useful to you, and we'll go why that is at the end of the session with you. I'm very happy to spend extra time with you. I do have time.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, so moving on, we were going to add the one bit that we have not added yet is the actual mapping information of where this application is going to be. And we're now going to draw it in actually in this field here. So I'm going to move to the next map and you'll see that I've done it. Now, the way that you do this in Parish Online is that you remember that the mouse will have changed to a crosshairs. You put it into, say, the top left corner and click once. And then as you move the mouse around, a blue line will follow it until you get to the point where you need to change direction. Then you click again and it lets you change direction. Click again, you change direction. Click again, you come back to the top, double click to show that you've finished, and you get this square here. And now you can click on save because you've fulfilled every requirement to complete a data record. So we're going to click on save and move to the next page. And what happens is that the one you've just done changes to a red color, and the system says, what's the next one you want to add in? So if you don't want to add another one, which we don't in this case, we're just going to click on the X at the feature editor top there to turn it off. So I'm going to turn it off. So now we're left with our new planning application, and what we want to do is to change the color coding so that the color of the application reflects the status in terms of the planning authority's view of this particular application. So what you do is click anywhere on the red column, in the red square, and up will come the data record for that column, which is going to be under planning applications. You click on there and lo and behold, up it comes. So all of this information, all of this information here you will recognize. What we're trying to do now is to color code this particular application and to put a label on it. And the way that we're going, and we're also going to tidy up the borders of the application. Remember I said it's easier to do a rough and ready install first, and then you tidy up the bits afterwards. And this is why. So to make a change, we're going to edit by clicking on the pencil up the top here. And then that will bring us to the chance to change this input. And all I want to do is to put this corner border on the level on the border with my neighbor's house. So to do that, I clicked on the top corner of the rectangle and just pulled it up. And anytime you click the mouse somewhere in the line, your little blue ball will come up, and then you can pull it to where you are. So if supposing my extension was going to be in the shape of the house, it would be a piece of cake just to move it there. Whereas drawing it in there to start with is tricky. It's very simple to do it later. So that's why I say do a rough and ready install first, and then come back and tidy it up now. So we just adjust this shape to the one we want it, click on save, and end off the feature editor. So we've now got the correct shape and the correct position, but we haven't got the right color yet. So to get the right color, we're going to click back here anywhere within our current layer and go and choose style. And style brings up this page, which is basically divided into four columns. The left-hand side is the one we're going to start with, and then these others will change accordingly. So in the top left corner, there's a style type, which defaults to single, and we're going to change it to its other choice, which is class-based, in order to get the color styling and to bring labels into effect. So I'm going to click on single here and change it to class-based. We've changed it to class-based, and then in the class column, it says, what do you want the class to be based upon? So in our case, we're going to say we want it to be based upon the status per the local planning authority. You'll notice that the system defaulted to the first one in the list, which is application number. And I mention that only because you'll see here in the third row, it's now changed this record to match the application number of, in this case, the only record that we have. But had there been multiple records, you would a load of records down here. So we're now going to change it to LPA. So I click on that one, and there we get. And now you'll find that lo and behold, the middle one has changed to the four choices that we've created for the local planning authority. And we want to get the colors right now because it's defaulted to these color choices and they don't match what we want. You want approve to be in green and you want refuse to be in red. So to change the color, you just simply click on the color you want to change. I'm going to click on the red box and up pops your color choice. Three choices here. You can choose a very fine degree of grading by selecting the color in here, and you can select any scheme you like using this slider. Or if you happen to know the codes for the color you want, you can put them in here. But by far the simplest way is just to click on one of these blocks. So I'm going to click on the green block. And lo and behold, the approved has turned to green, and you'll notice that the preview has changed accordingly. So the next decision is to say we want the refused not to be light green, but to be made that red. So we do exactly the same thing. Click on the light green, change it to red. And now we're going to put in a label as well. So there's no label here at the moment at all. So you go and click on the label column, the drop-down list comes up and says, what do you want the label to represent? And in our case, we're going to make it the application number. So I'm going to click on application number. It goes into the box there, and you'll see that lo and behold, it's appeared in the preview. So a refused application will be in red, and it will have the application number on it. So, okay. So I think the next page shows you what happens when we did that. I should mention labels whilst we're at it. Say we want to have a label in here based on the application number. You get the choice in this column of saying what size, what color, what shape you want the label to be in. So you can play around with this. It's quite nice to have a halo effect, if you like, which sort of surrounds us with a little cloud. Not really applicable to application numbers, because you may end up with lots of them on the screen like you saw when we started. But in other cases, putting a halo around an application, a label is a good way of drawing attention to it. And you get the choice of the sizes and the fonts and the colors you want to use here. But today we're just going to take the standard, go ahead with that and accept it. So now you'll see back on our main map that lo and behold, our color has changed according to its status. The status is awaiting a decision, so it's purple. And then we do indeed have a label applied now, which is the planning application number. So that was really just to show you how all of those arrived. Now, the next thing was to print out this information, so it's of use to other parish councillors or to your villages or whatever. So the next really section we're going to go into now is how you get reports out. The first one we've chosen is print. When you click on this print here, up will pop these choices, and these fields are all empty when you start. Well, that's not quite true. Sorry, the top two will be empty, and you can type in whatever you like as a title. For me, it makes sense to make it the application number and then description of where the house is. Choice of templates are basically standards. You have A4 landscape or portrait, A3 portrait or landscape, and custom. Again, I would just suggest you accept the default for now. Best fit, ditto. Your experience will show what if you want to change this, but to start with, default is good. You have the choice of printing this out now as a PDF file or as a graphic PNG file. Again, doesn't matter which you choose, the default is PDF. All of these choices here you can make. I've said, yes, we do want a legend in there to show what the color coding means. Yes, we do want a north arrow in there just to show people where north is. And the toggle mask is on by default. So we're now going to, although you can't see it on my slide, there is a print button down the bottom, and we just, I'm sorry, I should mention the square in the middle is where the printout is going to cover. So if you decide that you want more or less information than this, you can just click on your zoom in or out buttons, and you can scroll left or right so that what's inside the square is what you actually want the printout to be. So now we're going to print, and it pops up here with the print title. So this title here is now the name of your print. And just a note in passing, sometimes this isn't visible. If you've got lots of stuff up here, then this scrolls down off the page and you think the print hasn't worked. But if you scroll down, you'll find it. And to get the print out, you just click on the button here. So what you see when you get a printout is you put a frame around the outside, you've given the title, you've given the description. Here's the author. I logged in as the parish council. You've got your north arrow. You've got your legend of what the color code means. We've only got one here because we've only got one record. And this is now ready to go. You can either choose to print it out on a piece of paper by clicking on the printer, or you can save it as a PDF file and then email out that to anybody you want to do. And there's a question from Jane.
I had to produce a map for our mowing tender last week. Our village is quite an odd shape, and I couldn't get all of the areas onto one map. And in the end, I actually ended up producing 4 separate maps.
Ouch.
Yeah, because we are, an odd shape. And the only way that I could work out how to do that was to print out the whole of the village and then kind of with a pencil line, work out where my individual map areas were going to cover. So what I'm trying to say, not very well, is it possible to have a composite view and then print out segments?
Yes, exactly. And Jane, that's a great question. Let me go through that in the question and answer session at the end.
Okay.
And we'll show you exactly how to do that, because I sense that there's several questions from you and Stephen and possibly Julie, that need to go into live Parish Online to fix. And I'd be very happy to demonstrate those at the end.
What that question does for Stephen's perspective, I think, is maybe illustrate, because a bit like you, Stephen, I'm not sure I'm going to use this in this way for planning applications, but I did find it extremely useful when I was producing my maps for my mowing tender, because I had lots and lots and lots of little areas in the village that needed to be included within the tender document. And the last time I sent the tender documents out, which was 3 years ago, I hand coloured in 15 A1 size maps
We can
show all of these different areas.
That trouble, Jane.
So I've only been using this about 3 weeks, but it has already saved me a lot of time.
Good. Well, I'm very pleased to hear that. I will indeed show you how to get your printouts much more easily covered when we finish this. Bear with me. We've only got a few more minutes to go.
Sorry. Yeah.
No, not at all. No, that's exactly what this is here for. So you have a choice of printing it as a piece of paper or printing it as an electronic document, which you can then send to anybody you like. The next way we were going to send out information was as a spreadsheet. How can you export the data in a spreadsheet format? So we go back to our planning layer, we right click on it, we come up with this little menu and we select table view. And I'm clicking on here on table view, and up it pops basically in spreadsheet format. Now, we've only got the one record here because that's all we've entered. But if you were on a layer where you had lots of records, this would go down. So your mowing contracts, for instance, Jane, could all appear here in one go. You can click down the bottom right on export, and it comes out as a spreadsheet, which you can then manipulate to your heart's content. It's a really useful way of getting data out of the system. So I'm a great fan of table view. And then lastly, we went on to public maps. So I'm going to click on the closed there and come back to here and say, going up to public maps, you go up to your top menu up here, click on the little cog, and you get these four drop downs. We're going to go into administration. So when you click on administration, up pops your screen. It can appear blank when you first start. You wait a couple of seconds and it fills in with all these details. Again, if you haven't created a public map, there won't be any here. But when you click on public map, up fills this section. We're going to create a brand new one. So we would click on the plus sign here. And we're now running through sort of there's a flow chart here that shows you how much progress we've made in creating the public map. And we're on the very first one, and it says, what sort of map do you want to be underlying this? Now, as you saw earlier, we selected photography, but you could have just very detailed mapping, or you could have base mapping, depending on how much detail you want to do. So you click on the box that you want, and then click on next to move to the next session. And it now says, so what layers of your information do you want to include in this? And by your information, they mean stuff that's in your your parish layers or in your asset register. And it will list all those things here. And to put them into the public map, you just click on each one and it pops over to the right-hand side. So I've selected 3, Legend, last year's application, and this year's applications. Those 3 I'm quite happy with, so click on next to move on to the next one. It then says, so which of the third-party layers do you want? And in this case, to make life simple, I don't want any, so I just move straight on to next. Now, the only thing to remember here is that between these 2 screens, the parish layers or the third-party layers, you have to select at least one. The system does need to know one form of data or other. So it doesn't matter how many you select, but somewhere there needs to be just one. Click on next. And it goes, we now see that we've gone to the start location along this sort of flow chart. And the idea of this is, how big a picture do you want to present when people first look at this? So if you just zoom into this one field, that makes no sense to anybody when they first come up. On the other hand, if you show them the entire United Kingdom, that doesn't make sense either to your local parish. So it just says, how big an area do you want people to see when they first sign on to go into the public map? And I just select, Long Sutton is where we're interested. People will recognize the environment from here. So we're happy with that. We click on next. And it's now in the sort of configuration style. It says basically, what do you want users to be able to do? They can turn on or off the different layers. I've put in 3 layers, these 2 layers here. Do you want them all to be visible at the same time, or do you want the users to be able to control it? And so you just tick the ones that you want them to control. Similarly, over this column, it's what's going to show up when you first put this up. Do you want everything to show up, in which case you tick all the boxes, or do we just start with one layer and let the others be put in as the users wish? It's just a matter of keeping it as simple as possible to get started. So when we're happy, we click on save. And then we're now on the last page, which basically says, here is what you've created. This is what will be on it. The URL which you'll publish to the public, if you want to send this to somebody as an email, you just click on this to save it to your clipboard and away you go. They can then put it into their browser and the picture pops up. Or if you've got a web designer for your village website, you can click on here and send him this map, and that's all he needs to show exactly the same thing. It's basically the code that he needs to get the information onto the website. So again, it's very fast for him. You save him a lot of time and trouble just by sending him this code. And you do have a preview here that shows you what the public is actually going to see. What I've done instead is copied this address and put it into my browser and showed you the next slide as what it is. And here is what you would have seen in that first session way back at the beginning had I had a better internet connection. So basically you get the overhead photography of the village. In this case, we've concentrated on this particular house, and you can see where the planning application is for. And so you can say, well, yes, next door to the village market garden. It's not in a conservation area. It's not a public concern. As Stephen says, all worthless information to you. But in our case, in Long Sutton, this is considered to be quite helpful. So that's the end of the demonstration. We're going to pause now, and I'll just check the chat in case Julie has been offering anything. And then we'll go into the questions that you both have asked. So let me just check the chat, and there's nothing in chat, so you don't have to worry about email to you here for all applications. Okay, Julie, good stuff. So the questions that we had. So Stephen says, yes, not interested in doing planning applications because we've got everything else. But there were other things, Stephen, you're muted at the moment.
I wouldn't say we're not interested in planning applications, very much interested in planning applications. What I was interested to understand is how different is this system from the one that we have operating with Chichester District Council already? Because there's a map-based system which gives a great deal of this information as far as I can see, not in the same manner perhaps, but it's a map-based system. It's available to the public. So I was interested what the distinction is really.
Oh, well, the distinction really is the fact that you cannot interact with the district council's portal. What you see is what you get. When it's in Parish Online, you can make any adjustments you like for the local conditions. So the business of recording the parish council's decision, for instance, will be shown there. But so there are some parish councils who use Parish Online to run their parish council meetings. So basically, as soon as they've made the decision on this particular planning application, the secretary or the parish clerk can mark up Parish Online because you're up and running, and that decision is instantly reflected for the villagers to see. Whereas with your system, I don't actually know whether the parish council decision is reflected at all in the record, but I guarantee you it won't be instantaneous.
No, it'll be on the planning portal, as you say.
Okay, but it'll take time to get there.
Yes.
And for anybody who's very anxious about their application, you're giving them that much more immediacy, that's all. And again, the whole point of this was to show you the principles of how to do something. The fact that I chose it to do it on a planning application is really quite irrelevant. Let's go into the question that Jane had. I'm going to share my screen again. I'm going to go live into Parish Online. So bear with me whilst I go into, let's shut you down. We don't need you, we don't need you, we don't need you, but we do want Parish Online to come up. So it just, as we said, it starts by default on your local parish. I absolutely loathe these administrative boundaries, so let's just turn those off. So that's the principle for you, Stephen, of how the layers work. So basically the whole system starts off with nothing. You can turn layers on or off just by clicking on them. So one of the more useful things, I'm just going to zoom in a little bit here to show you the details. So here is Long Sutton, and you've got all the individual buildings. What's really handy is to turn on the addresses. So if I go up to here, there is the address plus points here. Every building now has a dot on it. You click on any dot and it pops up with the address of that building on the left-hand side. So that's just one example of bringing in a layer of location-based delta to help you out. Now, that was that particular layer. Let me just zoom out a bit further because this is sort of to show you for effect. This is Long Sutton's area. And one of the big interests around us, because we flood a lot, is what are the floods? So when you're considering a planning application or for any other reason, you could say, so what happens if we get a major rainfall around here? And look, that much of the local countryside disappears underwater. So that's really sort of helpful information to bring in as a layer. And you can put as many layers in on top of this as you wish at any one time. The system's capable of absorbing them all. It's only a question of what your councillors or the spectators can sort of cope with in terms of level of information. So basically that's bringing in layers of information. Now in the question that Jane rose about printing out, let's move into where there's a bit more detail and say you've got, in fact, do you want to share your screen, Jane? That might be better. Let me stop sharing this. And I think I gave you permission. Let me just check. Yes. So you could share your, have you got Parish Online up and running, Jane? Not hearing you at the moment. You've gone quiet on us.
Sorry. It says you've disabled screen sharing. It's come up now. No, I haven't got it open, so that won't help at all, will it? Bear with me, I need to open it first. Talk amongst yourselves.
Okay.
Why is that? Here we go. Right.
So there's a question from Julie in chat. So is there a limit to layers? And the answer is no, Julie. There are hundreds of them available. If you turn them all at once, and of course the whole thing becomes incomprehensible, but you can certainly have as many as you wish to illustrate the point that you're trying to make at a time. So certainly I've frequently come on with, particularly if you've got a need to show polygons, points and lines all at the same time, which you do usually with a village. You know, you want to show the footpaths, you want to show the bus shelters, and you want to show the housing. You turn all 3 layers on for those particular features and they'll all show up. So do I need to keep talking, Jane?
Yeah, sorry. I don't know why, but I can't remember.
Just when you say you can turn different layers on, for example, the flooded area and so on, those layers, the information comes from where?
From the third parties, Stephen, and there's hundreds of third parties. So let me go back to my layer just whilst we're waiting for Jane. I'll put my share back on. So if we turn off the, sorry, let's come out of there. If you scroll down a little bit, the first 2 layers belong to the parish, your asset register and anything that you've created, and we've created all of these and we use them. But then there's all the ones that come from third parties. So all of these are generated by individuals. So we've got one from South Somerset District Council, and they've shared this information from their systems with us. You've got Somerset County Council, and they've shared these layers, and these will be very independent according to each county council, district council. So what Somerset puts out may not necessarily be put out by Warwick or the South Coast, wherever it happens to be. But a lot of this stuff is common to all copies of Parish Online. So you get all the stuff from Historic England about grade 2 listed buildings. You get the land registry, which is really, really useful. So if you want to see who owns the land around here, turn on the land registry and it all comes up with the individual parcels. What you get in each parcel is a reference number. To find out more information, you have to go to the land registry site, but at least you've got a starting number to punch in to their registry, and you can find out who the owner is of any particular piece of land. And you can also see where there are areas of land that there's no known ownership. And as it happens, the land registry has got a goal of recording all publicly owned land in the country by 2025. So one of the things they're asking all councils to do is to come up and say any publicly owned land in this area is covered or not covered in this map, as the case may be. And the land registry wants to know that. So that was just one of them. But, you know, you can scroll down through here, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of choices. So each one of these contains a whole bunch more. And when you add them all up, it's a bit like the internet as a whole. You can spend time going into Parish Online. You get completely lost in all the wonderful things that you discover that you never knew. To me, it was an absolute astonishment to turn on the grade 2 listed buildings in our area because I had no idea that there were so many around us. So if I turn off that one and I say go on to the Historic England site, turn on the listed buildings, and bang, I had, you know, I thought there may be one in along Sutton, but look, there's hundreds of bloody things. Wherever you, and again,
can you click on those?
Location-based data, you can click on any one and it pops up and tells you what it is. And what's usually the most interesting thing is they give you a link to the website to find out more data. So if you've got no idea what Woodstock is, you can go and find out what Woodstock is. And that's what I mean about this is a rabbit hole. You never end, you may never come back out. But it's interesting stuff.
No, that's fantastic.
So Jane, how are we doing?
Yes, I'm back in now.
You're
I'll
back
be
in
there in
now.
a
All right, let
second.
me stop sharing. It's all
So
yours.
when you make your public map available,
Yep.
sorry, I've forgotten the answer if we have asked this question already. If I wanted, for example, to have a map which showed the location of the listed buildings, could that one also have the grip bins and the
Absolutely.
lights?
Yeah, you can put multiple
So you
layers
can do
in.
either one for each type of asset or function, or a multiple one, and people can select what they want to see. Okay.
Indeed, yes,
Right.
because you do have the facility in a public map of turning layers on or off. We've got a note from Julie who's saying that they've got all sorts of uses for this worked out in their mind already. All right, we're all yours then, Jane.
Okay. So
You wanted to show us your mowing issues. Oh, okay. Oh my goodness me, I see what you mean.
So I had to produce 1, 2, 3, 4 maps.
Right.
Which, you know, wasn't, it was a lot better than colouring in 15 hard copies.
Yes.
But I just wondered whether I could have had that whole screen and just...
Absolutely. So if you click on your print menu up at the top, so that you bring up your square, now you can adjust the map there so that you get what you want.
Yeah, so I went
You're going to have to zoom out a bit further, aren't you?
Yes, and I went into portrait because I thought that was better. But
that's clever. That's a good move.
But when I produced these, the resolution was not good enough when I was covering the whole village.
Yeah.
So they couldn't scroll in and see, because there's a lot of quite small areas. You see, immediately I scroll in and I lose bits of it.
Yep. But at least you get the overall picture in your one picture.
Yeah, yeah.
And then to get the individual, do you have one contractor for the whole lot, or do you have different contractors?
Well, I'm hoping so. By the end of the tendering process, hopefully, yes. Right.
So then you've seen, and we're doing some of this for Stephen's benefit. If you zoom in now, till you get the individual resolution that you want on any one area, then
so look at
as you say, you have to break it down into several printouts.
Yeah. So I did
if you go to an A4 screen, sorry, an A3, or A3 portrait, again, you got slightly more detail there. That went the wrong way, didn't it? Interesting. So, yeah, you can choose whichever you want that gives you the best picture. But then, as you say, you really don't have any option in this case except to use 4 or 5 several pictures to cover the whole area. It's because you've got very fine detail in there. Yes. You know, some of your resolution. I mean, you've done a great job on this. I'm impressed.
Hopefully. So if
can you not? Could you go to the map and just, in effect, snip the screen, the part of the screen that you want? So go to the level of detail that you need, and then screen dump or snip or whatever you call it, the area that you want on one particular.
Oh, yeah. If you want to use the whole screen, yes. Jane was looking at sending out a PDF map, which is useful to people because they can then do whatever they want to with the PDF to help themselves. Like measure the area that's involved and that sort of stuff, so they can do work out the cost it's going to do to do this. But yes, you're quite right. If you turn off the print, Jane, yes, and now you've got a bigger screen, so you can afford to sort of zoom in a bit further and then just take a snapshot of that particular screen.
Oh, I see. What you mean, like a screen dump?
That will produce it as a graphics file, because a screen snapshot is usually a PNG. You can always convert it to a PDF. It's not whichever you want. But yes, I think that's a good point, Stephen. That's a good point.
Going back to, so I should, if I've done this correctly now, I should be able to click on that, and I'm not getting all of those other columns and so on and so forth. That
Well, you click on mowing contract. And there they are.
Okay. So these fields here, I could potentially rename if I wanted to. Is that correct?
No, those are the ones that are automatically generated for you by Parish Online. So they know from past experience. It helps to know what the area is. They've measured the area for you. The centroid is, I guess, for if your mowing contractor has a graphical information system, a mapping system himself, then it's really helpful to know that centroid information. And again, if he's a mowing person, he's going to be very glad to know what the perimeter is of the area he's mowing. So that information is generated for you by the system, and you don't have control over that. But if there was more information you wanted to put in, you could just add more columns to your layer. So you're in the wrong field now. If you close down that column, click on whichever area you want. It doesn't matter, just anywhere, that one. Okay, again, so all you've got there is an area ID 5023. So what other information would you like to include?
I don't know, really. I was just hypothetical.
Okay, well,
trying to see.
Yes, so the way, let's do it, because it's actually a very good question. So if you now go up to your cogwheel in the top right, go up to the cogwheel and come down and click on it, so you get administration. Go into administration and wait for it to load with your layers. It'll be a second or two, but it will come up. No. Okay, now click on the mowing contract once. That just highlights it, and now click on the pencil up at the top. Okay, so you can add more. Just for example's sake, if you click on the plus to the top right.
If I click on, sorry,
the plus sign to the top right, that one. So now you can put in something else, and you can put in something else, whatever you want to do. So you could, for instance, once you've issued the contract, you could put the contractor's name, particularly if you were doing separate contracts for separate bits of grass.
Yes.
So it might be quite handy, and then you could color code the contracts, the grass, according to which the contractor is that's looking after it. So it becomes very easy for you to see, the bits in green belong to Fred and the bits in purple belong to Joe. And
likewise, we've got some areas, for example, where we've got spring bulbs planted. So they have to be dealt with in a different way. So
that's a great example.
Color code those.
Yeah, so you might put in, one of the columns you put in might be, type of land, as you might say, it's bulbs, you might say flower beds, you might say mowing area, whatever. But you have the choice of editing this anytime that you like to store the data that you want.
I can't remember how to change the color now.
Oh, okay. Well, that's why I'm going to send you the slides and the video.
Good.
You'll be able to go back.
Good. I'll have a practice.
But what you can do is, if you have finished with this, either click on cancel or save, whatever. Go back to the map by clicking on the globe, top right. All right, so click on your parish layers to open them, and click on the mowing contract. Just right click anywhere on that line. There you go. Yes. And you're going to style it.
That's it.
So now you've come up with this page. And if you want to color the code according to style, you click on the single up the top.
That's it.
Change it to class-based. There you go.
That's
and then
it.
You only had the area ID, but and now you'll see that the third column on your right has changed to every single record you've got for mowing areas. So you can change the color for each one if you want to.
Okay.
It's entirely up to you.
Right.
But you're better to put in a column that you call, I don't know, status or type or whatever, and then you color code it according to type. That makes sense? So it's like everything else in life, a little bit of practice and it suddenly makes sense. But when I'm talking to you, it's all gobbledygook.
Just need to play with it for a bit, really. Yes. I keep telling people I'm learning to drive it.
There you go.
Yeah.
And when you were learning to drive, you probably had an instructor.
So if you don't mind, if other people are happy, if I look at the other layers that are available to me from, I mean, this is our county council, so we've got the rights of way.
Yep.
But that appears to be it.
Yes, it is.
And yeah, this grounds maintenance contract, which is no use to man or beast.
Well, clearly there's room for improvement.
Yeah. So I need to contact the customer services person.
That's the right one. Yes,
yeah.
Exactly. And say, maybe had this, maybe had that. Now, something to tuck away in the back of your mind. You certainly don't bring it out to begin with, but there is legislation that requires the councils to publish this information if you ask for it. So a lot of them will say, we can't give you that, it's private, or it's too much work or something.
Okay.
And that's when you bring out the big guns and say, guess what? You are actually legally required to make this information available to me. So please go ahead. But that's a big gun. You only read that if they're really, really uncooperative. Let me give you the example of Somerset. Somerset County Council had no idea why on earth we would want any of this information. And then when we talked to them and we showed them and we demonstrated Parish Online, which they'd not seen before, they thought, wow, this makes sense. And they became then wonderful people to work with. They were really, really helpful. And as much of this as anything else is education. The people who are working in the bureaucracy are not actually familiar with what it is that you need or what would be helpful to you. But as soon as you ask, I think the usual reaction is, wow, we can do that. That'd be great. And that's certainly what we found in Somerset, both at the district council level and at the county council level. You tend to run into issues of speed. So weird as it may seem, there probably isn't one person with the county council level who's familiar with all the data they've got. They've got so much that, the people who are in, I don't know, salt bins don't know what's available for the people who go around picking up the dog poo, whatever, that sort of stuff. So the customer service person may have to do some research to find out who on earth he's got to talk to. And then the person that he talks to say, well, it all belongs to the highways department. You then call up highways and they say, oh, well, we need to get permission to publish that information. And so it'll take a while for what's called the owner of the data to give formal authorization for it to be published. And these are all steps that the council is sort of obliged to go through for process's sake. But what we found is that it's often questions that have never been asked before. They never occurred to them to ask these questions. But once you start asking it, they say, oh, yeah, that would really be great. And we've had tremendous cooperation from our councils. So hopefully you'll find the same. But the matter is as much one of educating them as to how they can be helpful with the information that they've gathered to you, because it simply never occurred to them. Yeah. You're racing through this, Jane.
Well, no, I'm not, because nothing's happened. I was trying to put listed buildings on and not
okay, so you go back to select my layers. So yes, cancel or go back, whichever way you want to do it. So
clicked on public map.
Right, and you want to create a public map, so click on plus. Then,
and I chose that one,
right,
for example.
Yeah, good. So now click on next. And then you need to select the layers that you want. And you said listed buildings, so that's not on it. Okay, it's not in. The first set of layers you recall is either your parish layers or your asset register. And
okay.
Public listed buildings are not in there. So move on to the next one. Click on next. Right, this is where you'll find it. And you may have to go a long way down to find listed buildings.
I see.
There you go. And now you've done it. That's all you need to do. Race on. Yep, I just selected the default there. There you go. Give it a title. Anything you like, because no one can see this, just you. And accept the defaults, just go. If you click on preview, you'll see what you've done. Preview, top right. There you go. There it is. So
And
that's
now
what
I've got a link and I can share that as a live interactive map with
absolutely.
anyone. Yeah.
And
So where's that? Where's
if
the
you're
URL?
if you're a user and the public, if you click on that listed buildings check mark, top block, no, sorry, the one to your in the map itself, the black box mark, yes, you can turn it off and they all disappear, turn it back on again, and they'll all come back. And your members of the public will be enchanted. They think that's marvelous.
Where's my URL to share?
Go back to info, tab on the top, move to your right, yeah, come down. Come down. There you go, yeah.
Ah, okay, yeah.
So just click on that, do it now, click on that. Now open up a new tab in your browser and paste it in. No, well, just go back up there, you go, yes, just paste, there you go. And enter. And there it is. Yes, exactly. Ta-da. So hopefully Julie is watching this and she said, yes, this is exactly what we wanted to do with all of your street signs and things, Julie, that you were saying. Good.
Definitely need to play with it though, don't you?
I need to formally just check if anybody else has any questions. I'm very happy to stay on if you want to play like this. Let me just ask you to stop sharing your screen briefly, Jane, so I can see if Julie's got anything to add.
Yeah.
Okay, so Julie, are you still with us? And do you need to see anything? And she may not be there. In fact, I don't actually see Julie as a member of the conversation, so she's had to go.
She's on my screen.
Right, no, she's still there, all right? Just working on that as we speak. Okay, good. Well, so question, Julie, this is your chance if you have any specific questions that you wish to ask. Otherwise, we'll carry on playing with Jane and Stephen if they would like to. So,
I mean, as far as I'm concerned, the planning application side, I guess, as far as I'm concerned, it seems I'm more interested in what's there already from the district council. But as regards all sorts of other things, the layers that you can access to, that looks terrific. Very powerful.
It is very powerful.
Clearly a big learning process. But
it is, but you find that when you're talking in the parish council, it really helps to be able to demonstrate what it is that you're talking about. So an example that I've seen used is that a discussion has come out about parish notice boards. And the first thing that you need to do is to show the parish notice boards to some councillors because they don't all know where they are, particularly depending on how big your council area is. Yes. So that's helpful. The second thing that you can do is that we haven't really matched yet, is you can add an attachment to every record. So you can go out and take a photograph of a notice board, add it into Parish Online, and then when you show it to the councillors in your council meeting, you can show a picture of what it looks like. And they say, oh, yes, I've seen that one, but I've never seen that one. It's tucked away, hidden behind the bus shelter or wherever it is. And one of the villages near us, as I said, they run their entire council meetings on Parish Online. And they were saying that they were astonished to discover that when you look at where the notice boards is, you know, when it was put up, there was no bus shelter, but now someone's put a bus shelter right in front of the notice board and you can't see it any longer, or you can't get at it, whatever it is, you know, those examples where pictures tell 1,000 words, you can add photographs into the appropriate record in Parish Online, and it becomes really helpful to parish councillors.
Yes, yes.
The other thing I'm going to use it for, Stephen, is we have a lot of really old street lamps, and we are concerned, you know, because a lot of them just won't be able to be maintained because they can't get the parts going forward. So we're going to need to move to LEDs. So we need, and for some strange reason, we have an inordinate number of lights. So what we're going to do, I'm going to map them all, and we're going to do a community consultation exercise to see, firstly, whether we need them all, And then we can identify which ones are old, and we can start to cost out what that, you know, is going to mean to us going forward, because it will be a very expensive exercise. But until we've, you know, I think this will be a really valuable way, a much easier way. We've got the information on a spreadsheet, but it's, you know, it's not very user friendly in that format.
We may be able to save you some time there, Jane.
Oh,
So when the time comes to put each street lamp into Parish Online, if you select the aerial photography, the chances are that they'll show up there, particularly if the sun's shining. And then all you need to do is put a dot on top of each lamp post, and it's there for you.
so I have to go into.
Well, go on to Parish Online now, and I'll show you. So share your screen with us. Yeah, that's good. So go back to the main map, which is top right, the little low. Yep. Now you want to turn on the photography. So if you go up a couple of layers to the green ones, second one up, APGB aerial data sets. Come down to, yeah, click on that one. Go for, say, the 25 centimeter, which is the latest ones. And you have to wait a little bit till it loads up.
Oh, still got my hand up.
Yes, you do. Yes, you've never stopped asking questions since you started. All right. So this looks a little weird because you've also got the Ordnance Survey map still turned on. So if you click on the Ordnance Survey one, the second green one down, click on that to, yep, see where the cogwheel is. Oops, well, yes, okay. You've now turned it off.
Yeah.
What you can do is turn it back on, the standard one. Click on the standard one.
Oh, come on, Jane.
Yeah, there you go. Just click once on standard. Now move to the little cogwheel, and that is a filter. So you can say, if I go all the way to the left, you only show photographs. If you go all the way to the right, you only show map. And somewhere in between, it can be very helpful to you to have, you know, a vague combination of the two. But in this case, all you want really is 100% photography. So turn off you can turn off the map altogether, or turn the filter down to 0, whichever way you want to do it. So if you go into the street lamps, you know, the areas that you're interested in, yeah, keep zooming in, and you have to wait for the system to catch up with you because it's got a lot of data to download.
How far does it zoom in? What is the maximum?
Oh, you can get down to about 10 meters, I think, but
per screen centimeter or something, or?
Yes, exactly. Well, if you look at the bottom left of your screen at the moment, Stephen, you'll see that she's on a 50-meter scale at the moment. So can we see street lamps there? I think we can. Yes. What are the white dots? Are they all street lamps? I have a suspicion that they somewhere. I think you think so. Each white dot you've got there, are they street lamps, or are they?
These look like the shadow, don't they?
No, I'm thinking more. See this white dot there? What's that? You tie that with anything? Maybe it's too big for a street lamp, but I think it might be a street lamp.
One here
zoom
somewhere.
out one click. If you zoom out one click there, Jane. Yes.
I know where there definitely is one. There's one next to my house. Let's have a look.
Okay.
So yes, so that's the one next to my house.
Oh, look at that. Okay, so the base of that will be the street lamp. So if you have a layer called street lamps, and in fact, there's one in the asset register, I think. If you turn on your asset register, go down to outdoor property. And no, add a feature. Yeah, yes, that's right, add feature. Right, this category is, keep going down, streetlights, you may well find. Yes, streetlights. Okay, so what you can do now is move your cursor to the base of that shadow, and just click. Okay, and save it. You've now entered your street lamp. and you didn't need to find it. It's there for you. It's got a little icon to show you what it is. But what's really fun, Jane, is that there is a feature in Parish Online called geolocation. And we use this with the local school kids. We say, we need a photograph of every lamppost in the village. So please go out and photograph each lamppost. And if they turn on Parish Online in their browser on their phone, then the GPS system works out where they are and will show them the photo, their map of where they are. And then they just take a photograph of the streetlight and it automatically allocates it to the streetlight that you've got entered there.
Wow.
So you end up with a photograph of every streetlight in the village, all effortlessly, because all the kids had to do was run out and take a picture of it. I think it's very, very sweet.
Wow.
They feel they're really helping out. And just in passing, Langport Town Council, just down the road from us, say that bringing in Parish Online has reduced the average age of the councillors by about 60 years, because they're getting young people saying, this is cool. You know, I want to, well, they don't use the word cool nowadays. They probably call it sick or something. So this is sick. They really want to be on the parish council so they can play with this gear. It's just a neat way of recruiting people. So anyway, there you go. So that's something you can do. Use the same technique if you want to work out how many plots there are in your allotments. You can, again, go in with the photography, all the allotments show up, and you can then just draw a line around each one and say, this belongs to Fred, this belongs to Joe, this belongs to Peter. And you've ultimately got your allotments allocated.
How do you? Come on.
Yeah,
there's another one along here somewhere. Yeah, anyway, by the by.
It's just, it was an idea, but you can always go into the other photography, either the 12.5 centimeter, which will have been taken on a different day. So you may get different sunshine to show up. I suggest you have one at a time rather than both. Yeah, that's good. And just let it catch up. We'll see if it's any more clear as to outside your house. Oh, it's exactly the same picture. How useful is that? What a shame. I was hoping it would show you more streetlights, not like the one that's just down the road from you.
There's one round here.
They're few and far between, aren't they? Oh, no, well, there is one. There is a shadow there. You see the zigzag lines? Yeah, come down a little bit. Come down a little bit. Is it on which side of the road is the lamppost on?
On this side.
Oh,
on this side too, actually.
Yeah, I think there's a shadow there.
But
so
because I've got, I know I can cross-check with. There's one. There's one.
Well, that's very crystal clear, isn't it?
Yes, there's one.
So and it even stands out. So you can just add that one. So go down to your parish layer. Sorry, your asset register, and right-click on. Yep, right-click on it. Go down. Go down. Go down.
Oh, sorry.
You're already there. Street furniture. Right. Right click. Yep. Right click. Good. Add a feature. And there's you can add it. Yeah. Select the lamp stand. Oops. A lamp post. I think was there. We go. Yeah. And you're there. Go down a bit. Well, you're at the top of it.
Ah.
You see, no, sorry. Go to the other end of the shadow, but you've clicked on the top of the lamppost and not at the bottom of it. You see, you can actually see the lamppost in that picture. So that's good. Jane, this is very useful. Just click on save and click on the X at the top of the feature editor. Now click on the lamppost icon and click on the pencil to edit it. And now you want to move the icon from where it is down to the base of that little white mark that shows the lamppost. You see what I mean? Go down, yeah, you're on the top of it. Go down a bit. You move along to the right. So just follow the shadow.
There?
Well, the shadow, the sun shadow of the lamppost. Yeah. Right, move it to your right, to your right, to your right. Yes, that little pole, but just, okay, leave it there and scroll in. So zoom in if you can. That's right. Yes, that's good. Okay, let it catch up. And you'll see that you're not quite at the base of the lamppost. You can see the lamppost there as a pole. You see it? Yes. So you want to move that. That's the top of it. You want to move it to the bottom where the shadow. There you go. Perfect. So that was just showing you how you can use the script, the zooming in to edit to precisely where you want it. So now if you save, you've now saved that one. Perfect. And so it goes.
Yeah, I've still got my hand up. Yeah, and I'll be able then to label them, whether they're LED, sodium.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Very good.
So good. I'm glad we did that.
Thank you.
If you can just release the
Sorry.
sharing of your screen, I want to see whether there's any more questions from Julie. And I think
Julie's gone, I think.
Oh, I need to jump off. Yes, of course you can email me up. Okay, well, thank you for noticing that, Stephen. We've probably got to the end of your ability to absorb information, but I'm ready, able to take more questions if you'd like to ask. It's entirely up to you.
I think I've reached capacity.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Yes, I think there will be more questions, but I need to absorb first and
Okay,
and
well,
then come back.
I will email you all with a copy of the slides and a copy of the video and a note on questions. I will also point out to you that there's a user group website where you can go to find more help. What else is there? Oh, and today is the last day for anybody who wants to. Jane, you've already taken advantage of the annual subscription offer. Stephen, you probably don't want to, but we have a special offer at the moment which gives you a discount on an annual subscription, but it ends today.
I think that's the sort of parish council decision, isn't it?
Yeah, of course it is.
I just did it, didn't tell him.
Yes, exactly. Well, I mean, most parish clerks will have authorization to spend some money without further reference, won't they? Certainly ours does. I think we give her £100 or something and say that, you know, do it first and then come back and justify it afterwards.
Yeah.
But anyway, well, it's been lovely talking to you both.
Thank you again.
Thank you very much for your time. I look forward to seeing you next time.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Take care.
Good luck, Stephen.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yes.
Thanks a lot.